What if a simple smile could seal your fate? Smile 2 2024 takes the terrifying curse from the 2022 hit Smile movie to a whole new level. Directed by Parker Finn, this psychological supernatural horror film explores the dark consequences of an eerie smile that won't let you go. With a chilling IMDb rating of 6.2 stars out of 10, it's a must-watch for horror fans. Before we dive into the full breakdown, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for all the latest horror movie explanations and breakdowns. Now let's unravel the nightmare together. The movie begins with Joel, who has been affected by the curse for 6 days. He is watching over a gangster's house when he sees a car arrive. He puts on a mask, takes a weapon, and enters the house, confronting the gangster to scare him. In a moment of desperation, Joel harms one of the gangster's men, attempting to pass the curse. However, a struggle breaks out and the gangster loses his life in the fight. Meanwhile, a boy named Lewis, who had come to buy substances, witnesses what happens. It's important to note that the curse passes when a victim dies in front of a witness. It can also transfer if the victim causes someone's death. In the movie, Joel tries to pass the curse by killing someone, but the curse spreads to Louis because he witnessed the death. Witnessing death, directly or indirectly, is key to the curse transferring. As Joel attempts to leave, more of the gangster's men arrive. He escapes through a window and runs away. However, as he crosses the road, he gets hit by a car, bringing his story to an end. In the next scene, Sky Riley, a famous pop star, is giving an interview about her comeback. She spent a year recovering in a hospital after a severe accident, and this is her first time reconnecting with her fans. We learn that an actor named Paul Hudson also lost his life in the same accident. Sky had been at the height of her career, even winning a Grammy, but the accident occurred during her tour, leading to a major setback in her life. Sky shares with her fans that the pressure of performing and touring had been overwhelming. Instead of seeking help, she turned to alcohol and substances, which only worsened her mental health. She sincerely apologizes for disappointing her fans and assures them that she is now sober and ready to return. We also learn that her mother manages her schedule, and she has a personal assistant named Joshua who helps her navigate her career. Despite being away for a year, her fans remain loyal and supportive. Later, during a dance practice, Sky begins to feel pain in her back. She has stitches and a large wound on her stomach, likely from the accident. Trying to relieve the pain, she attempts to take a pill, but when someone knocks on the bathroom door, she quickly drops the pills into a sink, feeling anxious. While sitting in a car, she texts a contact saved as Elle asking, "Can I come over?" The person responds, "She can." That night, Sky visits Elle, the person she texted. When he opens the door, he pulls her inside and holds a blade near her. Shocked and disturbed, Sky shouts, "You said I could come over." We discover that Elle, whose full name is Louise Fregoli, is the same person Joel had encountered earlier in the film. Sky has come to Louis for pain relief medication, but he seems confused and doesn't remember inviting her. It becomes clear that Louis is struggling with the curse. Sky sits in his room while he goes to get the pills. Meanwhile, a TV segment about her and Paul plays, mentioning that both were intoxicated at the time of their accident. Frustrated, she turns off the TV. Louis stays in the other room for a long time and Sky calls out to him. Suddenly, he rushes out looking terrified, as if he is being chased by something. He appears to see an invisible entity, but Sky sees nothing. His expression shifts into an eerie smile, and he starts harming himself, leading to his tragic passing. Shocked and horrified, Sky panics and dials 911, but hesitates, afraid that she might be suspected due to the substances in Louis' house. Trying to move past the traumatic event, Sky returns home and attempts to sleep. However, she starts experiencing disturbing visions of Louis, realizing she is now seeing things that aren't there. The next day, in the makeup room, Sky's mother asks if she is okay and advises her to talk to Gemma, who was her best friend, though they were not on talking terms anymore. Soon after, her friend Darius arrives, inviting her to a youth event. Sky is reluctant, but her mother signals her to accept the opportunity, as it would be a great start for her career. So, Sky agrees to attend. Later, in the changing room, Sky starts feeling nauseous due to Louis' death and considers texting Gemma. She hesitates because in the past she had insulted Gemma badly. Just then, she receives a text from an unknown person asking, "Were you at Louis' apartment last night?" which scares her. At that moment, she sees Lewis in the mirror's reflection behind her, but when she turns around, no one is actually there. Hearing her scream, her team rushes in. Skye makes an excuse, saying she saw a spider. She also complains that she can't wear her costume because it exposes a scar on her stomach and refuses to wear the dress. Later, as she is signing autographs for her fans, everything seems to be going fine, until a strange man approaches her to sign his yellow t-shirt. At first, he speaks politely and requests an autograph. However, the moment he gets close for a picture, he grabs her too firmly and starts complimenting her in an unsettling manner, making Skye extremely uncomfortable and frightened. Then security intervenes and manages to remove him from the room. Although shaken by the incident, Skye convinces herself to continue. Shortly after, a young girl approaches her for an autograph. However, instead of reacting normally, the girl simply stares at Skye with a creepy smile, which scares Skye. At home, Skye looks at the text from earlier, her mind filled with anxiety. Wanting comfort, she decides to call Gemma, leaving a voice message apologizing to her friend. Gemma calls back, and Skye quickly apologizes for how she treated her before. Wanting to make things right, she invites Gemma to her house, and Gemma says she will be there in 40 minutes. Later, Skye drinks some water and leaves the bottle on the table. She then starts singing while playing the piano. Suddenly, she hears the sound of her bottle falling, which startles her. As she begins cleaning up the broken glass, she notices a t-shirt on the floor, the same one that belonged to that fan, the one she had signed. As she moves forward, she sees that all of the man's belongings are lying on the floor. Just then, the lights go out and the man seems to follow her. Terrified, Skye runs toward the door and opens it, only to find Gemma standing there, and Skye checks her home and finds no one. She also finds the bottle on the counter. Then, Skye hugs Gemma and asks her, "How did you get here so fast?" Gemma replies, "You called me an hour ago." Skye feels uneasy, questioning if it was all just her imagination. Skye tells Gemma everything that happened about Lewis, and Gemma advises Skye to stay silent about Lewis, warning it could harm her career, and reassures her that none of it was her fault. Gemma chooses to stay the night. Later that night, Skye has a haunting nightmare about the car accident, where she sees Paul Hudson lying unresponsive. Overcome with grief, she starts crying and wakes up terrified. Skye tells Gemma that her mind is a mess, filled with noise and chaos that traps her in darkness. She wants to stop the noise, but doesn't know how. Gemma tells Skye she's a horrible person and gives a creepy smile. The smile scares Skye, causing her to fall off the bed. But then, Skye wakes up realizing it was just a dream. Gemma isn't there. She made matcha for Skye. Skye realizes it's morning and she's late for rehearsal. She asks Gemma to join her on her tour, but Gemma says she needs to think about it. While rehearsing, Skye is focused and everything is going smoothly, but then she sees Paul's smile. Shocked, she falls on stage. She believes her leg is injured, but it's just in her mind. Confused and upset, she blames the dancers, thinking one of them made her fall, though they did nothing wrong. Scared, Skye runs to her room and sees Joshua leaving with a creepy smile. When she goes inside, she finds the room a mess and gets angry at him, but Joshua denies messing up the room and he and Skye argue. Then, Skye's mom asks if she is using drugs again. Skye angrily says no and tells her to do a drug test if she doesn't believe her. Skye tells her mom she's not ready for the tour, but her mom won't listen. Instead, she reminds Skye about Darius's event and tells her to prepare. Skye doesn't want to go, but after arguing, she gives in. At Darius's event, Skye feels nervous as her speech time gets closer. She texts Gemma asking when she will be free, but Gemma doesn't reply. The same unknown number texts Skye saying he knows she was with Luis on the day he died. When she reads the messages, she becomes very scared. Just then, it's time for her speech. She walks on stage and starts to read her speech, but suddenly the teleprompter stops working. She becomes confused and doesn't know what to say next. Already feeling nervous and underconfident, she starts speaking from her heart. However, her speech goes completely off topic, and she ends up talking about her struggles with alcohol and drug use, revealing her personal challenges, explaining how fame doesn't heal emotional pain. When the teleprompter starts working again, Skye begins reading her lines, but then she unexpectedly invites Paul Hudson on stage. The crowd grows upset, but to her shock, she sees Paul smiling at her from the crowd. Paul slowly moves towards Skye, terrifying her. In a panic, she shoves an elderly female anchor off the stage. shocking everyone. The audience watches in confusion, unable to understand what's going on. Back home, Skye is still in shock when she receives another text from the unknown person, telling her that everything she's seeing is real, and also sends her a video of Lewis, showing him experiencing the same kind of hallucinations. Skye decides to meet the unknown person. She secretly visits a club where she meets the unknown person, Morris, who reveals that he had been investigating the curse. He had tried to warn Lewis, but found him dead before he could. He explains that the curse is more than just hallucinations. It's like a parasite that latches onto deep emotional wounds, pushing victims toward their breaking point. Once they die, the horror transfers to whoever witnessed it. If Skye dies, the curse will move forward again. The only way to stop it is to break the pattern. He hints to her that if a victim dies in a way that doesn't follow the usual pattern, the curse might end. Skye asks, "So, you want me to die?" Morris tells her that because his own brother had fallen victim to it, and suggests to Skye that if he stops her heart for 2 minutes, the curse will leave her. Then he will restart her heart, bringing her back. Though the idea shocks her, she listens. But before they can plan further, Skye is recognized at the club and forced to flee. Skye returns home, urgently packing her things. Overcome by desperation, she considers taking pills, but in her anger destroys her room instead. After an intense struggle, she succumbs and swallows the pills. As she walks outside, Skye sees her backup dancers smiling creepily and chasing her. The scene becomes even more disturbing as Skye struggles against the crowd. Some people are pulling at her hair, others are forcefully pressing on her face, and one person even tries to shove their hand into her mouth in an almost strange way. The story then shifts to a flashback of the fateful day of Skye's accident. She was heavily under the influence of cocaine, and Paul, driving the car, was arguing with her. He insulted her, calling her a psycho, and that pushed Skye over the edge. In her rage, Skye grabbed the steering wheel, causing the car to veer off the road and tumble down the cliff. She wakes up in the hospital with her mom by her side. Her mom explains that she was found unconscious at home and had to be admitted. Despite her disheveled hair and bruise on her face, her mom says makeup will cover it. When Skye tells her she can't do the tour, her mom insists they need to start working again the next day and reminds her that many companies have invested in her comeback. She can't cancel the concert, or they will face big lawsuits. Skye, feeling hopeless, asks if she is just a toy that her mother controls to keep working. She says she is not mentally stable enough to continue. Her mom, however, emotionally pressures her, saying that Skye always lets people down. Skye says, "I wish you could feel what it's like to live inside my head."
"I taste an X inside your head!"
No, please.
He smashes a nearby mirror and grabs a piece of glass to harm herself. Shocked, Skye quickly removes her IV drip and rushes to leave. As she reaches the door, she realizes she is still holding the shard, making it seem like she was involved. She feels overwhelmed, noticing the stains on her clothes. Just then, Joshua enters the room. Thinking quickly, Skye distracts him by asking for a soda. As soon as he leaves, she puts on a sweatshirt and quietly tries to slip out of the hospital. However, in the lobby, Joshua sees her and notices the stains on her clothes. Concerned, he calls for a doctor. As the hospital staff approaches to assist her, Skye quickly grabs the gun from the security guard, threatening everyone, and escapes. Once outside, Skye spots Gemma. Desperate to get away, Skye takes a stranger's car by threatening him. Since Skye didn't know how to drive, Gemma drives the car. Skye texts Morris because she now needs his help to perform the procedure he had mentioned earlier. Once Skye gets the address, Skye asks Gemma to stop the car, insisting that she go alone to face what's coming. She tells Gemma that she doesn't want her to be a part of it, fearing the curse could affect anyone near her. Gemma, however, refuses to leave her side. She insists that she'll be there for Skye no matter what. At that moment, Skye's phone rings. It was a call from Gemma, who was right there with Skye. Nervously, Skye answers the call, and Gemma asks, "Why have you been sending me all these strange messages?" Skye replies, "But you came to my house, right?" To which Gemma responds, "I never came over."
Gemma hates you, Skye.
Skye shouts, "You may be in my mind, but I control my mind," and closes her eyes. Now she is in the driver's seat and speeds toward Morris's place, determined to end this. Upon arriving, she looks Morris in the eye. "If your plan doesn't work, you have to stop me, no matter what. This curse ends tonight." Then, Morris leads her inside a Pizza Hut. He takes her to the freezer room where the process will take place. He tells Sky to change and lie down, and he instructs, as the temperature drops, Sky's heart rate will slow. He'll set an 8-minute timer and then inject a drug into Sky's neck to restart her heart. This process will break the curse. Morris leaves for a moment, and Sky suddenly notices red droplets falling from above. Looking up, she sees a terrifying image. Herself, strapped into a car seat, just like in the accident. The entity approaches her, whispering, "I love wearing your skin. You can't escape me," and throws Sky. It crawls toward her. It reaches out, trying to force Sky's lips into a twisted smile, but Sky refuses to surrender. Gritting her teeth, she grabs the syringe and injects herself, hoping this will end the curse. But as she begins to lose consciousness, she realizes the entity is still there. It slowly moves closer to her and shuts a door behind them. Suddenly, the scene changes, and Sky finds herself on a stage, dressed in a costume. Thousands of fans cheered for her, and among them she saw her mother, alive and smiling. But standing opposite her, another Sky with a creepy smile, was someone who looked exactly like her. The doppelganger suddenly tore open her own stomach with her bare hands, and from within emerged a grotesque creature. Sky fell to her knees in fear as the creature lunged at her, grabbing her jaw and breaking it. In reality, however, Sky was just lying on the stage. Her crew rushed toward her to help, but then she suddenly stood up, and an eerie, unnatural smile. In front of thousands of people, Sky grabbed the microphone and began smashing her own face. The audience gasped in terror. And then, in the final shot, we see Sky lying lifeless on the stage, still smiling and spreading the curse to everyone in the concert. The movie ends. And that's how Smile 2 ends, spreading the curse to an even bigger audience. The entity wins again, proving there's no real escape. What do you think? Can the curse ever be stopped? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more horror breakdowns. Thanks for watching.